Come in. What are you doing this time? Playing Spelunky. Permission to speak freely, sir. Granted. This is getting ridiculous. You're just playing games. You're meant to be this amazing military dictator who rules his small patch of land with an iron fist. There's no way playing cave games is in any way relevant to the government of a nation. What? All I'm trying to say is that the people are starting to lose confidence in your leadership. I cannot see how Spelunkus, or whatever it's called, is going to help solve the food, housing, labor, water, and electricity crises. Oh, you thick-headed plebeians, don't you see how what I'm doing now is necessary to solve those crises? No? Obviously not. Spelunky teaches high-speed crisis management, risk assessment, and emergency self-defense in case of assassination attempts. Don't you reckon high-speed crisis management might be useful for, I don't know, managing a crisis? Whoa, I never thought of it that way. But what about the starving citizens? Oh, don't worry about it. Market forces will regulate themselves. But there is no market. I'm 100% tired of your socialist nonsense. Me too. Bye-bye. Spelunky is a tough game, but should it be so tough? Should it have an easy mode? The answer to both of these questions is yes. No. Maybe. It's not that simple. Occasionally, my mind becomes consumed with a singular, stupid idea, and I can't think about anything but this idea. How to make my own trading card game that's just different enough from Pokemon to not obviously be just Pokemon, while simultaneously being basically just Pokemon. Intricate plot details for feature films that I will never make. How to play board games by yourself. Why Doctor Who Series 11 and 12 are objectively worse than their predecessors, among others. This time it was, should video games have an easy mode? And I think the reason it stayed so lodged in my brain is that it doesn't have a particularly simple answer. It all started when I was watching a video about one of my favorite games, Hollow Knight. I read a comment thread where people were complaining that the game was too difficult and not fun. This led me down the rabbit hole of people who don't like Hollow Knight. I started to notice that there were three main complaints that people had about the game. 1. Wandering around is boring and tedious. 2. The map system sucks. 3. Combat is unfairly difficult. I was dumbfounded. I completely disagreed with these people. In my opinion, all three of those aspects are what I like about the game. Now, I could talk about Hollow Knight all day, and maybe I will someday, but that is not this day. This video is about video game difficulty in general. Once I was happily settled into hate reading these stupid idiots' opinions on Hollow Knight, I decided it was time to take on the world of gaming in general. So I looked up something along the lines of video games are too hard in the Google for some good angry reading. And one of the things that popped up was this 2018 article from The Guardian. I don't want to get good at gaming, I want to escape the relentless pressure to improve myself. Personally, I think this article isn't particularly good, but at the same time, I think the author might have a good point. So I'll just talk about this article a bit. My first issue after reading it is that I'm not exactly sure what the author wants. Does she want video games to be easier, or does she want people online to stop treating the video games like they're a job that you need to get better at? If it's the latter, I understand. It can be quite frustrating when you go online either for help with a video game or just to seek commiseration with other people who are having the same trouble as you, only to have someone tell you, get good. Side note, as frustrating as get good is, I think it is often actually good advice. When I look up a boss I'm having trouble with in a game, usually there's no secret trick to winning. The only way to win is to improve your skills, or in other words, get good. On the other hand, if I go online just to vent my frustration, get good is legitimately unhelpful and irritating. Back to the topic. If the author of this article wants video games to be easier, which I think is supposed to be the argument of the article, I largely disagree with her reasons. The author states, if I wanted to develop a new skill or increase my tolerance for repeated failure or become more resilient, I'd just put down the controller and engage with the rest of my hyper-competitive millennial life, in which complacency puts you on the breadline and contentment is something you can only experience vicariously through looking at pictures of cats lying in the sun. There's a name for a frustrating, difficult activity you undertake on a regular basis in order to hit arbitrary KPIs. Work. Like I said earlier, I disagree fairly strongly with this opinion. I think almost all hobbies are about developing new skills and failing, at least to start off with. I play the piano and the cello. I don't consider either of those things to be work, yet they require that I continually practice and improve. I think of video games the same way. I enjoy the act of practicing a difficult part over and over until I'm finally good enough to overcome the challenge. I understand not everyone shares this view, and we'll get to that soon enough. In order to illustrate her point about people treating video games like a job rather than like fun, the author shows a tweet making reference to farming games like Stardew Valley and Harvest Moon. Personally, I don't think there's a single type of game out there that would argue your point about video game difficulty more poorly than a farming game. Stardew Valley is the most chill, relaxed game I've ever played. Actually, I kinda understand though. Even though Stardew isn't difficult in any way, I do sometimes treat it like a job. I plan out my farm's affairs like planting and harvesting schedules, looking at graphs to find the most profitable crops, and making the most efficient mayonnaise production pipeline. So in a way, I do treat it like a job, but it's an extremely fun job. There's another problem I have with this article. I have no idea what games or types of games the author is referring to. The picture on the article shows Sonic Team Racing. The author talks about game mechanics that make me think of adventure games along the lines of The Legend of Zelda, but then later mentions leveling up and practice regimens, which make me think of RPGs and online competitive games respectively. I'd like to know because it would help me decide how superior to feel. Just kidding. But at the same time, if you're complaining about Sonic Team Racing being too hard, I think I'll have lost all hope in humankind. On the other hand, I empathize with the author if her arguments are being leveled at online shooter games. For example, Rainbow Six Siege is a game I like a lot, but I don't really play it online by myself, because I feel like I'm weighing my team down with my incompetence. Even though I only play casual and never ranked, and I play properly, I don't fool around or shoot my teammates on purpose, I still feel like my team is constantly angry at me because of my stupidity, and I don't really want to spend my time practicing to overcome that stupidity. Same with Fortnite. I never got into Fortnite because I knew I would never invest as much time in it as other people, and as such, I would never win. So it was just frustrating always losing to those people who are so much better than me. I don't know how that's different to me than losing over and over again to a Cuphead boss, but it is. Maybe it's the fact that it's 100 players, so you have to be better than 99 other people to win. And maybe because your opponents are real people, so you can't learn patterns or predict behavior. Sir, the citizens are protesting. What? Yeah, and they got violent. They poked me with a stick. Really? Well, there are a lot of trees down there, so it could have just been that I walked into a branch. Regardless, the situation down there is more serious than I thought. They clearly don't understand that government progress takes time. If only they could imagine all of the work I've gotten done in the past year. 2 years. 2 years. You know what? No, I didn't ask. Yes, you did. The main problem is that they don't know about the work we're doing here. Like Spelunkus? Yes, like Spelunky. We need more government transparency so they know where their tax money is going. Well, you're the one to spearhead that since you're the boss. You hit the nail right on the head. I am the boss. I'm going to make an address to the entire nation. I'm going to assure them that progress is being made. I'm going to tell them all of what we're doing to resolve the food, water, electricity, housing, and job crises. And I'm going to tell them to remain patient because progress takes time. Well, you'd better get to it then. They're pretty angry. I'll start writing right now. Anyway, now that I'm done whinging about this innocent person's newspaper article from 3 years ago, I'd like to point out that the main takeaway here is that different people have different, equally valid senses of fun. I like challenge, but someone else might not. Or we may both like challenge, but we just have differing opinions on what is a fair, fun challenge. So, why shouldn't games have an easy mode so that they can be as fun to as many people as possible? Is there any way an easy mode can interfere with the experience of a game? Yes and yes. I know it sounds like I'm against easy mode in games, but I'm not. Video games are made to be fun, or at least most are. And people should be allowed to enjoy video games however they like, as entertainment or a hobby or a sport. But at the same time, I believe there's a good reason to be against easy mode, because it can potentially damage the game developer's intended experience, and, as an art form, a video game can be whatever the developer wants it to be. Think of Dark Souls, which probably best represents this great debate. The atmosphere of Dark Souls depends on the constant feeling of dread and fear, because a fearsome creature may be lurking behind any corner. If there were an easy mode, this feeling would be removed, and some of the experience might be lost. Of course, an argument for Dark Souls having an easy mode is that the people who would use it would still find the game scary because it would still be difficult for them, just more reasonably difficult for their skill level, and it allows them to experience the interesting lore of the game. If someone wants to explore the beautiful world of Hollow Nest in Hollow Knight, but they don't want to be endlessly frustrated by repeatedly losing to the Mantis Lords, maybe they should be able to. But on the flip side, it might also encourage able-bodied players to play on easy so that they won't get frustrated, which may cause them to miss out on the amazing satisfaction of beating an immensely hard boss. I also believe that there's something to the difficulty of a game being a bit of a rite of passage. I think there's something cool about a game telling you, here's a challenge. You'll either overcome it and see what comes after it, or you won't. Only people who step up to the challenge and win receive the treasure of knowing what's behind that door. There's something cool about knowing that you are in the minority of people who made it to the final cutscene or the credits or the hidden final level. It's like a little secret that only members of the Cool Dude Club know. But from the perspective of someone who isn't in the aforementioned Cool Dude Club, this seems very gatekeeper-y and pompous. And as I mentioned previously, I believe people should be able to enjoy a game however they like. I think there's still a primitive bit of our brain that wants to show everyone how cool and tough we are. In a previous generation, we would have done this by going to war or climbing a mountain or something. But in our modern age, we think we can show each other how tough we are by beating Star Wars Episode 1 Racer. This is where I was stuck in the debate, until I watched a video from Mark Brown with Game Maker's Toolkit.
Mark Brown, Game Maker's Toolkit. He does very in-depth game design videos.
This video was about accessibility in video games, and I think it provided the perfect answer to this conundrum. In fact, I'd venture to say you should just watch that video and quit watching this one, because that one will certainly be more succinct, better written, better edited with cool animations, and just better in general. This entire video is pretty much rendered superfluous by Mark Brown's videos on accessibility in games. Just watch his video. I'll know if you took my advice from the analytics. Basically, he brings up games that have some form of assist mode that makes it clear to the player that this was not the developer's vision for the game, but that it's fine to play it how you want. He also brought up something I've never considered. Assist mode in these games is extremely helpful for people with motor disabilities and coordination disorders. At first, I had a fairly unsympathetic reaction to this revelation. We're giving gold medals to everybody, aren't we? Nobody can be special anymore, can they? Disabled people should just accept that they can't do these things. And then I thought, why? Sure, people with physical disabilities may never be able to do gymnastics or, play the violin, but why shouldn't they be able to play video games? Surely the fact that they can't do those other things means that we should do our best to make sure that they can do these things. So there it is, the solution to world hunger. The solution to difficulty in video games. This truly has been a valuable use of my time. Now, does this mean that every game should have an assist mode included in its options? Ideally, yes. I've seen YouTube comments suggesting that it's ableist to not include an assist mode in games. I don't think I'd go nearly that far, and I don't particularly like throwing big ist words around. Unless it's racist, that's easily in my top 20 favorite words. I think the reason a lot of gamers get antsy when people mention assist mode is because there's been a trend in recent history, especially in Nintendo games, to make games so accessible or easy that it's just boring for experienced or skilled players. That's why I believe any hint or help should be opt-in only. Don't give me a free ticket to win when I mess up 3 times, I've only just gotten started, I don't want the golden Tanuki leaf, stop it! In my opinion, game developers can do what they want. I would hope that they include some kind of accessibility options, if time and budget allow, and as long as it doesn't interfere too much with their vision of the game. We live in a world saturated with amazingly fun video games, especially since the indie game revolution of the late 2000s/early 2010s. If 1 or 2 games are too hard for some people, there's bound to be plenty that aren't, or have options to adjust difficulty. In the end, not everyone will enjoy every game. I don't like sports games, MOBAs, MMORPGs, FBIs, CIAs, DODs, NASCARs, PRCs, DPRKs, etc., etc. Other people won't like the kinds of games I like. Platformers, Metroidvanias, roguelikes, puzzlers, simulators, among others. If every single game was designed to make every single person happy, we'd have a pile of messy, unfocused, and most importantly, uninteresting games. All right, sir, the people are ready and waiting to hear your address.